This WQED education podcast is made possible by the Ready to Learn Initiative, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and listeners like you. Thank you.
My name is Jen Ford, and welcome to the World of Work podcast. Grown-ups, grab your kiddos. Kiddos, grab your grown-ups, and let's all learn about an exciting career that exists out there in the wonderful world of work. Each episode, we will hear from a new guest as they talk about what they do for their jobs. Then, parents and caregivers, check out part 2 of each episode where I talk with educators in our community about how we can teach valuable skills that our children can use now and as they grow. When most people hear the word coal, they think about a black rock that naughty children get in their stockings at Christmas time. But did you know that coal is actually the world's primary source of electricity? Many people work together to make this valuable resource work for us. Today, we will learn about one of those important jobs. This episode, we are talking to Dale Hamilton, a geologist for the Mine Safety and Health Administration. In his role, Dale works to help keep miners safe across the country. Before that, he spent 17 years working in underground coal mines as a geologist and project manager. Thank you for joining us on the World of Work, Dale.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here, Jen.
So I wanted to hear a little bit more about your job. What exactly is a geologist?
What exactly is a geologist? People tend to think a geologist is somebody who plays with rocks, but really a geologist is a scientist who studies the earth. There are a lot of different types of geologists who study different aspects of the earth, but generally the thing that ties it all together is rocks. But really there's a lot more to geology than just rocks.
Interesting. When I think of the word geologist, I think about rocks and all those different things. So it's really cool to hear that there's a lot more to it than rocks. So because there's a lot more to it than just rocks, what does a geologist do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it depends on the geologist's focus. For example, my focus is mining. So most of the things that are made in the world are made up of stuff that originally came from the ground, either grown or mined. And there are mines everywhere. The United States alone has several thousand mines, mining all kinds of different commodities or products. And these products are used to make things like batteries, even the food we eat, cars, computers. They provide energy like coal. So we have all different kinds of things that we mine and uses for the things that we mine. And that's my focus. I've worked in mines my entire career, thousands of feet under the ground. But there are also people who study all kinds of different aspects of geology. We've got people who study volcanology, volcanoes. And they work to understand and predict how volcanoes form and when they'll erupt, things like that. Geomorphology, which is trying to understand why the surface of the land looks like it does and how geology helped to shape it. Seismology, which is study of earthquakes. So we try and predict when and where and maybe how much damage an earthquake will cause based on the seismic wave that propagates through the ground. Hydrogeology, which is understanding that there's a whole bunch of water on the earth that isn't in lakes and rivers and oceans. It's under the surface of the earth, actually in the rock. And so we try and understand how groundwater forms and how it moves and how it can be tapped and utilized. Paleontology is another aspect, another different study of geology. And that's the study of ancient life through the fossil record. Paleontologists are really interesting because they're both sort of geologists and biologists. So they have to understand these life forms that are no longer alive. And then also they're rock now. Those life forms are trapped in rock. And so if you've ever watched Jurassic Park, that's a paleontologist. They're studying dinosaurs from long ago or other creatures that are long extinct.
So it sounds like if you're interested in science, if you're interested in learning more about the earth, then geology is something that has a broad range of different avenues you can travel down if you're interested in studying things like that.
It is, but it's also if you have an interest in history, because the rocks and what the earth is made up of is our history. So if you know what you're looking at, it can tell a story. There used to be a river here 1 million years ago. There used to be an ocean here 100 million years ago. The rocks tell us what used to be there and what the Earth used to look like. And so we can even use that information on other planets. We're starting to decipher the information that was gathered by the Mars rover and understand the history of Mars through rocks that we're finding on the surface. We know that because we can see things that happened on our planet. There are parallels, and we can get that information and apply it to different planets. And that's called planetary geology, and something that's really fascinating to me. And there are tons of different ways you can use this knowledge and this kind of background and apply it to all kinds of different jobs.
That's really cool. So because you can apply the things that we're learning about our Earth to different planets, you can kind of go beyond Earth with studying geology and learning more and doing geology as a career. Dale, you talked about application of knowledge of different parts of the Earth and the way things work, as well as the skill of visualizing what could have been here before us as skills that a geologist has. What are some other skills that a geologist uses while on the job?
Well, geology is fascinating. As a science, it's made up of all kinds of different other sciences. And so when we talk about how most sciences have maybe math as a background, well, geology also has math as a background, but we also have chemistry, biology, like when I talked about paleontologists, and then history, as I talked about previously, physics too. There are a bunch of things that go into making up geology as a science. It's not just the study of rocks. It's the study of the history of the Earth and the processes that caused it to form and caused things to happen. So what we need to know as geologists is how these processes work together, because they repeat over and over again. We need to understand them. The same things that we've seen in current day make up things like the Mississippi River Delta, for example, where large quantities of water are flowing across the Earth and delivering sediment, blowing out into the ocean. That same thing has happened millions of years ago, and it's happened all over the Earth in different places. And similar processes happen elsewhere. So we need observation. That's a big part of the process. And we also need to understand. But we also need collaboration. It's a really big world, and we need to work together to understand everything that's happening. And we need to share that information, because that's what science is. It's sharing information so that we can move forward together and understand things better.
I really like that idea of observing, sharing, and collaborating with others. It sounds like there are a lot of things that kind of go on in this world of geology where scientists are talking with one another, sharing their information, and helping everyone come to a better understanding of this planet that we live on. That is really cool.
Science in general works best when it's collaborative. Knowledge in general works best when it's collaborative. When we all work together, there's so much we can learn and study. When we talk about geology, we talk about time. It's a long, slow process. The world around us has been around for a long time. We're talking billions of years. So to understand something like that, it's going to take a lot of time. And it's going to take more than my lifetime, more than your lifetime, even more than our kids' lifetimes. So we have to study things and pass that information on so we can continue to learn and build on these ideas and these understandings.
Dale, we've heard a lot about the different pathways in geology and the different directions that one could take a career in geology in, but I want to hear a little bit more specifically about your geology career as it pertains to mining. What is the best part of your particular job?
For me, I think the most interesting thing is seeing things that people have never seen. I've been thousands of feet below the surface of the Earth. I've seen geology like in my face. Things that were uncovered for the first time through mining and have never been seen before by human eyes. So I'm going places no one else is going, and I'm seeing things that no one else is seeing. That's amazing. And I'm down there helping to try to keep people safe. What I do is help with the stability of mines and trying to make sure that miners who are under the earth doing their job are safe, and that the earth doesn't come crashing down and hurt anyone. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of thought, and that's a big part of my job. Additionally, we're also trying to figure out where to mine. So in my career, it's not something that I'm responsible for now, but earlier in my career, we would look for places to mine in the future, and that would involve drilling. We'd go out into the woods or on top of a mountain from the surface, and we would drill down thousands of feet. Sometimes we'd even use helicopters to fly the drills out to remote places so that we could access them and drill down from the surface to discover what's down there and determine whether or not it was worth mining. It's fascinating, and it's kind of like an adventure. I loved it. So I've had the opportunity to fly high in the air. And then I've also had the opportunity doing some of this drilling to ride on horseback to get out to these remote places. And I've had the opportunity to be deep underground beneath you, looking at things that no one else gets to see. So to this point, it's been a pretty interesting career.
From everything you're describing, Dale, it sounds like the job of a geologist is very complex, no matter what kind of avenue you decide to explore as a geologist. So because the job is so complex, what is the hardest part of your particular job?
The hardest part of my job is wearing all the different hats. We do a lot of different tasks, and that's what makes it interesting and fun. One day I'll be working in the office, another day I'll be deep underground, and another day I might be walking through the forest looking for a new place to drill or a new place to explore. So it never gets boring, but you also never get comfortable doing the same thing because there's so much variety.
Additionally, what's also challenging is trying to understand things that are constantly changing. Because one of the things about geology that's really interesting is that it's not static. What you see in one place and how you come to understand it when you're looking at it is only unique to that place. You can travel not a very long distance away and suddenly things are completely different. And what helped to form it
Is a completely different scenario. Just like on the surface of the earth, you can stand in one place and everything looks one way, and off in the distance there's a mountain or a hill, and another place there's a valley or a river.
geology is happening all around us. It's constant. And so there's no such thing as understanding it completely. You have to understand all of it and how things have changed over time.
I find it really interesting, Dale, that when I asked you what the hardest part of your job was, you said there were a lot of tasks and a lot of challenges, but you also said that it's a lot of fun and it never gets boring. So it's really cool to hear that you're really enjoying and loving your career. What is the most important lesson that you've learned on the job?
That's a really good question. I would say that probably the biggest thing is learning how to work with other people and collaborate and being able to understand information and the things that people tell you. Because when you're working on big projects that are big in scope and big in complexity, there's a lot to it, and it's often too much for one person to be able to process. I rely on the people I work with a lot. It's a lot of teamwork. And so going in, I thought I could do all of this myself. And I was very, very wrong. And I learned that I have to work with my teammates, my other coworkers. We have to share information and ideas so that we can work together, understand it better, and do a great job.
So that idea of being a good teammate seems like an important lesson that you've learned as a geologist. Aside from being a good teammate, what other advice might you give someone who wants to become a geologist?
I think if you'd like to become a geologist, you can start right now. You can collect rocks. You can start to understand more about the way the world works because it hasn't changed and it won't change. And that's the most interesting part. We're still learning about it, and you can start right now. But you can look around and make observations, and you can apply those observations to the past and to the future. I would say if it interests you and you want to know why a mountain looks the way it does, or why a creek runs where it does, or maybe what dinosaurs did when they roamed the earth, those are all questions you can start to ask now. And those can be studied through geology. All you have to do is be curious. And that's what we want. We want curious scientists. Ask questions and find answers.
Well, you've certainly made me more curious about the job of a geologist, and hopefully you've made our listeners more curious as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dale. We really enjoyed hearing about your career and also about all of the amazing things that people can do with the field of geology.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and I hope that people give geology a chance because I think it's so interesting, and I can't wait to see the next generation of young geologists.
This episode's growth mindset theme is Learning is My Superpower. As a geologist, Dale has to draw upon knowledge from many different topics like history, science, engineering, and more. Because of this, Dale is constantly learning new things to help him solve problems as they arise. Ask yourself, what is one topic that you are interested in learning more about? Visit your school or local library and check out a book on that topic and get to learning.